Even those people who say, I don't want a revolution, when you actually talk to them about the issues, a majority of people want them. So sometimes the word revolution makes people go back a little bit. But if you say, should we expand Social Security? Absolutely. A majority of people want that. And we could go down the list. It's very, very popular. Free health care. Tuition free, ending these bad trade agreements, all of which makes economic sense to people.
Senator Obama, you had the same, hope and change, a little bit of a different message, but the same idealism, brought out record youth numbers.
So, first of all, I think Obama and Bernie Sanders are different. And no disrespect to the president, but he was never a revolutionary in the sense of really changing the system. He was pretty centrist in many ways if you actually looked at his record. Bernie is an organizer, and it comes from being elected mayor of Burlington by just a handful of votes, always being in some way an outsider, running as an independent to be elected to the House and then the Senate. He thinks of this as an organizer, and the people around him think of it as an organizer. So I think, and I have a lot of confidence in this, they're going to maintain the organization that's being built. These millions of people who are attracted to him, lots of young people. That's the key. If he doesn't maintain that, and I think he will, then all this will not happen. But you have to maintain this organization that's growing and keep propelling it and energizing it.
Now, he's talked about college tuition, for example. We're going to pay for that through a tax on Wall Street speculation. I'm not a mathematician. I failed math back in the day. But it seems like you're going to need more than that.
$300 billion a year you can raise from that. It would pay for all tax tuition, free tuition. Not only that, lower the interest rates on people who currently have debt. It's totally doable. And this is not a new idea. Financial transactions tax has been around for like 30 years. It was once called the Tobin tax, named after Nobel Prize winning economist named James Tobin. It's an idea that people have shown can work and make sense. And the side thing that happens with that, it sort of creates a little bit of a tamp down effect on this crazy speculation that I don't think anybody thinks is good on Wall Street. But yes, we can raise enough money doing that.
When you say Wall Street speculation, are you talking about them just inflating stock prices? What's the behavior that Bernie's going after?
We know that particularly in the computer age, and if anybody has seen The Big Short and read a lot of other accounts of this, today...
I could tell you, I saw it. It's even confusing to me.
Today, you just flip a computer switch and you can move millions and millions of shares. And a lot of that is based, when I call it speculation, it's not about fundamentals of a company and investing for the long term. It's about making that buck because some price change happened over 10 seconds or 1 minute and quickly trying to capitalize on that. That's speculation. That's not investing, which I think we all want. That's not investing for the long term in a company, the way my father, the way my parents did, thinking 5-10 years to help my retirement. I'm going to invest in a solid company because it's going to be there and I want to be behind it, not to just try to churn
shit. So they're basically trying to get stock prices to get on a little sugar high.
That's right. It's like that. It's like cotton candy, which they then pocket a huge amount of money because it's all done in this manipulation. And the computer age has made this possible because you can actually sit at your computer and do it. You can move millions of shares like that. And that's where the financial transactions tax would be targeted.
All right. Let's say in a wonderful liberal utopia, Bernie Sanders becomes president. You have a Democratic House, Democratic Senate. Even Democrats get a little more momentum in governorships. If you go after Wall Street, is Wall Street just going to throw in the white towel and be nice and start loaning? I would think Wall Street is going to try to make up the losses somewhere else by other risky behaviors. How do you make it where you go after Wall Street, but then there's not a little payback on their end where they continue not lending out to small businesses? They come up with another financial product that screws people.
Part of that, I would say, there's twofold. One is to have regulations, the kinds of things that people like Elizabeth Warren have been trying to push to make sure that, we don't operate in a wild, wild west. We do have regulations. The problem is we've not passed regulations that have been tough on Wall Street. And the second thing...
Well, we had them, but they deregulated.
Deregulated under Bill Clinton. They got rid of Glass-Steagall, for example. And here's the key thing, and this is one place where I'm respectfully critical of President Obama. The Justice Department of the United States is the place that should be prosecuting these people when they break the law. And not a single one of these high executives went to jail. Not a single one of them, the high ones, lost their jobs. In fact, they're making as much money and more. We have to have some teeth in the Justice Department. It says when you break the law, you're going to jail. And you know what? All you have to do is to do it to one executive. And all of a sudden their ears will perk up because none of those guys who are used to drinking fine wine, flying to their third house, on the French Riviera, flying in their private Gulfstream, none of them want to be deprived of their liberty. And all you would have to do is jail one of them, and that would affect behavior. We have to jail them. One of the things that Bernie says is the very first task that he has is to end the corruption in Washington, meaning getting rid of the lobbyists and the billionaires, overturning Citizens United, which has been so destructive to having a fair democratic system. You're absolutely right, and he says this. None of the things he wants, and none of the things, frankly, that Hillary Clinton wants or any Democrat wants will become law until we stop the corruption, until we get rid of the lobbyists and the money and the influence. And as Bernie says, Congress doesn't regulate the industry buys Congress. And every American knows that. That's the thing, and I think that's why he's really ignited people of all ages, because everybody knows the system's corrupt. Bernie's not going to go into office and repeal the ACA and then figure out how to pass single payer. He's going to have to work to build on top of that.
But how, it didn't work out in Vermont, even though it was under the governor. It had nothing to do with Bernie. Didn't work in Vermont. Many people say, yeah, Denmark, Sweden, all these other countries are great, but they're not America. But how would it work? How would he pay for it, and how would it work?
But your point is very important. I think it can't work state by state. You have to have a national system. When you said you compared Vermont to Denmark, that's a whole country. You have to have the whole market involved. Now, how would it work? So I lived in Australia for 2 years, and every month, every paycheck, an Australian gets a paycheck, and in it they have a Medicare tax of 2% on their income, in the same way that we have on our paychecks Social Security tax. It would work the same way. So it would probably be about 2.3%, which would be for a family of making about $50,000 a year, be about $1,000 a year. And that would come out of their paycheck every bit. But they would be saving thousands of dollars at the end of the day because they wouldn't be paying premiums or co-pays, and drug prices would come down. So at the end of the day, Bernie would be saving in this plan hundreds of billions of dollars, not just for people, but for companies. Companies have this huge burden for healthcare. Companies would save thousands of dollars. That's under the Kaiser Family Foundation's calculations, and we would do better for the economy.
But you were talking about lobbyists, Pharmaceutical companies don't have the threat of primaries.
They are the cancer.
How do you get disband of this, as you said, cancer that is not going to go down without a fight?
Well, as I said, so step one, if we look at it in like steps, the first step is Bernie says he has to get rid of the corruption and the rigged economy, and he has to stop the influence of lobbyists, which you can do by just banning them. You can say you cannot take money from lobbyists. It's very simple, but people in Congress don't want to do it because it pads their campaign war chests. We have to have a better public financing system. There are all these connections, but we have to end the influence of lobbyists in Washington. And you're right. If we don't do that, none of this will happen.
With the pharmaceutical companies, is it the same thing?
When I say the pharmaceutical companies have lobbyists. They send all the industries, insurance industries, the defense industries, pharmaceutical industries, you just go down the list, they all have their lobbyists who go lobby Washington. And the way they get access is they write checks to members of Congress and they say, here's your check for your contribution, now here's what we want you to do. Every American knows that's happening. It's just we felt frustrated and demobilized, and the reaction has been, understandably, to hell with them. I can't deal with this. It's all corrupt. I hate the two parties. It's never going to change. And frankly, I understand why many Americans feel that.
Bernie needs to stand up with a little chart how this works, because it seems like it's going over people's heads.
What I did with one media thing I had 5 single-dollar bills, and I said to the correspondent, I said, here's $1, and I want you to pay me that dollar for your health care coverage. And she handed it to me, and then I gave her $5 back. I mean, as a sort of model, it wasn't the exact proportion, but people have to understand that. You have to do a long education. People have only been exposed to this, in the last 6 months. But I think at the end of the day, and I think why people are getting ignited by this, when you understand that you will have thousands of dollars in your bank account at the end of the day, you will save money, I think most people will be for that.